Hi, I'm Julie Bregulla. I'm BBA's Chief Operating Officer, but I wear really a dual hat, a hat of operational and technical excellence at BBA. I joined BBA end of 2023, so relatively newcomer to the organization, but I've been in the TIC industry, in the testing and certification industry for a long time, for over 20 years. A BBA agreement certificate or certificated piece of content really starts to come to life for manufacturers the time when they have a product that they would like to talk about to a wider audience. So that would mean really a way of documenting that the product meets the minimum regulatory requirements to be able to train the product in its application, but it would also then any additional features that they believe are really meeting particular needs of the industry. And so the agreement certificate is really a way of documenting those particular characteristics in a really cohesive and coherent way, but also for the user groups, which there are many. So we'll have insurers, we'll have users, we'll have designers, we have architects, we have a whole supply chain and network of individuals and stakeholders that use this information to be able to grab this relevant information for their project and their design requirements at any one time. This is a really important function in the industry because to some extent it validates and verifies, but also underwrites the information that is being put out there for decision making. So a very important stepping stone to creating what I would call a common language, a reliable and consistent language around very specific parameters that are crucial to design. And so organizations like ours, BBA has been doing this for over 60 years, are really experienced at understanding the regulatory landscape and the requirements that are expected of a product and application, but at the same time also then understanding the nuances between a mandatory requirement and an optional requirement and the layers and levels of performance that this can come with. And so the process really is about one where we bring about first an understanding of the application, the use of the product, or the users of a product, and then the requirements that come with this and the levels of performance achieved and the proof that we need to see to be able to underwrite that performance to stakeholders. Data is hugely important, and we've seen so many great things that have happened with it. And you could argue that construction has been embracing data, but maybe not at the pace as other sectors. So we can see pharma, we can see many other industries that have had huge productivity gains, huge abilities to grab data and work with data to then really make a difference in the industry that they serve. And I think construction is just at the cusp of doing the same. We've had really good data use, but there's more to be done, and we have huge, really important drivers at the moment to be able to do that with, which is a real starting point to bring data to the right people for the right end use and for decision making ultimately. There's loads of data in construction, through life, at the beginning of an asset, for the design decision making, managing through life assets. So there's lots and lots of data potentially, and lots of tools in which data is stored, communicated, exchanged in any sort of shape or form. From our perspective, I think we have got a part of that data pool that is really important in the early stages of a project. So understanding, is this product going to be for me in my application? What information do I have ready? What else do I need to do? But also, I think, through the life cycle of a designed asset. So even when an asset is then in use, refurbished, maintained, upgraded, this can serve as a really useful data continuity point to understand the design decision making at the time, the conditions of that design, and then the decision making that follows for an asset through life. I would argue all data in construction is to some extent high stake data, because the data is so important in really shaping a project, shaping the expectation and the user requirement and the safety aspect of what we do in construction. So in one sense, having accurate data properly presented in a way that allows assimilation in a competent way is quite a key requirement. And so through life as well, actually, of the asset, as we said before, but maybe more importantly, it's about stakeholders understanding how to use the data, get the data in the right format that suits them and is valuable and valid for them, and then making sure we've got feedback loops to really understand how changes influence the data access previously. We are in what I would call maybe the most buoyant time of change in the regulatory landscape, unseen for decades before us. But that brings also challenges in really understanding the connection between the data accessed through time. And again, this provides a way of really creating a real clear understanding of where data comes from and where it will go and what it will mean over time as regulatory burdens might change or adjust. Clearly, this data will always be intended for competent, trained, suitably experienced individuals acting in what is this teamwork that is construction. So while some of the data is anonymized and grouped in some way, which will give us insights, which I think will be generally really helpful across stakeholder groups, when it comes to design or high-stake decision-making, as you called it, that is clearly made for individuals with the suitably qualifications and experience to be able to use this data. But we're hugely honored that this data is important, and so we want to be sure that that interaction is done well, and we want the feedback to understand where that could go. We've all really benefited from what I would call a data explosion. I can't even tell you how many zeros there are in the data points we're generating per year. The only thing we know is it's increasing and it's increasing exponentially. I think with this comes a real challenge about can have lots of data and yet be very information poor, because you need to really get this data to be moved in a way that allows this to sort of form. And we have seen very slick, and again, we live with it every day, our iPhones, our whatever sort of data access we use, which has really managed to bring this data to a really meaningful endpoint in the user that can make decisions can be made on it. Which train am I going to catch? Is my train late? All of this data comes to sort of an interface that allows me, that uses the data, to say, actually, I'm not going to bother with this train, it's late, I'm going to take the next one because it's going to be quicker. And I think construction still has to get to grips with this. We've got many data systems, we've got many interfaces. We've seen some amazing work from manufacturers of how they really are embracing the data journey and what can happen with that. But to some extent, it is very much a single entity business just yet, and we don't necessarily accumulate and bring together in a cohesive way to the interface that is the stakeholders of this data for decision making. And so for me, really, that is our big next step, is a way of really bringing this all together in a common language that allows this decision making, but also be a safe way of using data, meant the same way, used in the way it was meant to be, and interpreted in the way that it was generated and some of the limitations it might have. So that's the bit, I think, where probably we need to start work. AI and everything that comes with it is really a huge challenge. I think it's huge potential, but there's also a huge challenge. I've just really attended yesterday the collaborative reporting yearly event for structural and safer structures. And actually, we've been talking about that very topic, right? In that, AI gives credible answers. It looks sort of credible. It's very fast. And actually, there's a lot of competence required to double check whether the answer that you're getting is the answer that makes sense generally. And any sort of data offering needs to consider this, because as soon as the data is there, it is there to be used, but not necessarily in the way it was intended, built, or the limitations that it contains. And that is something we really need to grasp, and I think everybody has to own that responsibility that is a data provider, to really think through of how to benchmark, of how to make sure it is usable in a way that just allows good decision making to happen and not to be misled. We just said yesterday, AI can hallucinate, right? It will produce something, whether that something is meaningful. And I do think that in our sector, it is so hugely important to be able to have these interfaces properly interfaced, properly connected and talking to each other. And that is something that I think can only be done as a collective, with everybody holding their data set and the understanding of that data set really close and honestly, so that limitations can be clearly identified. in one sense, from the moment somebody decides to get their product assessed and certified, which in the UK system is not mandatory, so it is a huge investment by the manufacturer or the provider of a system to do so, which we hugely encourage because it does provide a level playing field and an understanding of exchanging on key information pieces, which provides a really consistent, reliable framework. There is also what I would call a combination of responsibility. There is a co-ownership of this particular data point and the way it will move its way through decision making away from both the manufacturer, the system provider and us. So in that sense, it's a co-owned responsibility that needs to be really handled very carefully, so that both parts of this data generating and validation point can really be properly reflected for the industry to be able to use it with confidence. And that really does take teamwork, but it also takes a sort of a separation between the validity of the point and the underwriting of it and the provision of the information that provides it. And that sort of we hold really dearly because it is part of our function that we want to be sure. And as everybody knows, we have got and must suspend or withdraw certificates on occasion. And so that really forms part of this responsibility so that the data point and its maintenance becomes part and parcel of the story of data that needs to be considered. We're very aware that we have got huge amounts of data and that we are, to some extent, caretakers of this data and what it means. So we are part of this, which we take very seriously and we want to play a bigger part in. But at the same time also, we want to understand exactly how we can interface with others. So our markets, all our stakeholders are clearly telling us this is important information, we want this information, we use it a lot. And we want to be embedding that information in our decision making. So we really are at the moment working with stakeholders to create exactly that opportunity to be able to say, this is the data, this is how it relates, this is how we classify it, group it, explain it. These are the qualifying measures that sit around it, and exactly how then we can make these translations happen in a meaningful way. It's a huge responsibility. It's a very first for an organization like this. It takes huge amounts of investment, and it also takes a lot of brains to be able to do this. And we couldn't do it without our stakeholders aligning with us. And so that is something that is really important to us. That data is important. We spend a lot of time and just care around providing this information. And we are hugely committed to having this data really resonate, but also be used in a way that we know it will add value, both to the people that come to us to have it validated, but also very much the users and the assets out there. It is safety and it is all of the other subjects that are really important to us. And we do believe it's our duty to be able to provide this information in a way that allows people to take good decisions and valued decisions in that.